Hi, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to talk about maladaptive daydreaming. It is something that not a lot of people know about, and it is something that I have struggled with my entire life, and I didn't know it was a thing until recently. Um, and I wanted to talk about exactly what it was because even though it is Borderline Personality Disorder Awareness Month, and I made a video about that before, it is still Mental Health Awareness Month, and I would like to continue to talk about mental health in general. And this is something that I find actually kind of fascinating as something that I've done to cope my whole life, and now it has a label and symptoms and solutions, which was really exciting to find out, but also like really frustrating to be like, man, I have something else too. That stinks. So let me tell you exactly what it is in my online articulate definition. Um, Maladaptive daydreaming is an extensive daydream that replaces human interaction with extensive fantasies that people envision in their own minds. Um, and some believe, Sommer. Oh, that's the person who coined it. Eli Sommer, PhD in 2002. He believed that the trigger for this excessive form of daydreaming might be from trauma or abuse. And the symptoms are daydreaming excessively in a way that is often compared to an addiction. The excessive daydreaming often begins in childhood. Movies, books, music, video games, and other media may be a daydreaming trigger. And the daydreaming itself is often detailed and elaborate, sometimes compared to a movie or a novel. Repetitive movements while daydreaming are common, but not always present in sufferers. Pacing, rocking, spinning, shaking something in their hand. They may sometimes talk, laugh, cry, gesture, or make facial expressions as they daydream. People suffering from this know the difference between daydreaming and reality and do not confuse the two. This makes them distinctly different from psychotics or schizophrenics. So you know you're in a daydream. You don't disappear and lose your sense of self. You are very aware that you are not in a reality. And some people will lie in bed for hours daydreaming and may either have difficulty going to sleep because of this or have difficulty getting out of bed once awake. They may also neglect basic functions such as regular meals, showering, and other daily activities because of their daydreaming. Wow. And that is actually a lot of what I've dealt with when it comes to daydreaming throughout my life. I would listen to music. Music was my trigger, still is, but I choose it. Like, I will put the music on. It's not like I'm in a supermarket and I hear music and like I'm taken away. I will put music on in my apartment. The light has to be a specific way, and I will pace, and I will listen to music, and I will listen to music for hours. It does make me late for things. It does take away my sleep sometimes because I will be so addicted to the music and the story that I'm creating that I will not want to go to sleep. And I have skipped meals or forgotten to eat because I have been so caught up in a daydream. When I was a kid, I would listen to music in my basement and I would walk in circles in my basement. There would be times when I would do it for like 5 to 6 hours. And it would be really alarming if somebody would interrupt the daydream. Like, if I would be in the basement and my mom would open the door, like, it would be very, what are you doing? Like I felt like out of control. And it, I want to say, while driving, not so much. It doesn't take away my ability to see, but I definitely do daydream while driving. I'm still safe in a car. I know some people actually find it somewhat dangerous if they find themselves daydreaming while driving. But I'm fine with it. Something that I actually do, which is interesting, is when I realized that I was daydreaming a lot in the car, I put on old like 90s music like Michelle Branch, Backstreet Boys, Vanessa Carlton, Britney Spears, because music like that is very much like, oh, I know this song, let's sing along, this is so fun, versus a song that's not popular and has more open ability to create something new, create a story, create a character, create an experience with new music or different, not really known artists. It's easier to develop something new versus something that is so known that I feel like there's not a lot of creative space to do that. So I think while driving, I choose that music to kind of keep myself present and still be able to not sit in silence. Maladaptive daydreaming is something that also I would say is a pretty big part of my life. It's something that I have managed like to an extent. It actually did injure my knees because when I lived in a very tiny apartment and I was walking in circles, my body was constantly on a slant because I was constantly doing a turn instead of like walking straight and turning. Like my basement was very big. So I actually ended up not being able to go to the gym for a while because my knees, I was like walking tilted and like I would toe in and like I changed the way that I walked because of the pacing and the circles that I would do. Fine now, but I would say that there isn't a day that goes by that I don't daydream at least once or like have an experience like that where I feel like I have to. It can sometimes happen aside from like me choosing it, like this is my daydream time. If I'm disconnected from something going on that I'm doing, sometimes if I'm like at work and it's like a more relaxed time where I don't have like a task to do, that's why at work I continuously find things that I have to do, like let's clean this dish, let's sweep this floor, let's da-da-da, because I feel like if I am not actively doing something, I will start to daydream and disconnect. I don't do this with friends. Like if I'm talking to somebody one-on-one or if I am in a group and I'm very engaged, I don't wander. But that's also not as, even if I am, like if it's something that I'm doing at work, it's not as extreme as when I do it at home. I also will go for really long walks, like in the neighborhood if the weather is nice, or like in the city, and that will also be daydreaming. I think for me, I get a more fulfilling experience from my daydreams when I'm alone because I don't have distractions and I can really disappear into my head, versus when I'm walking outside, I can listen to music but still like pick up on other like sounds and people, and sometimes it doesn't fully give me that experience that I need. Because it definitely feels like an addiction across the board. It is something that I'm addicted to doing. And I don't know how it is something that will manifest when I get older and have a family and don't have like private time to like do this. Sometimes it is a habit that I feel like I really need to break because I know that it's not normal. But I also know that a lot of my maladaptive daydreaming helped me create poetry, songs, stories. So there are ups and downs to this illness. If you have any questions further about maladaptive daydreaming or borderline personality disorder, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. You matter, you're worth it, and make sure that no matter what you're dealing with, whether it's an illness or a stress, oh, why do I always crack my finger in these videos? That there's more to you than this. This is a part of you and it is not a whole. And whether it be an episode or a daydream or whatever else, it will pass. It will pass and things will come back and you will return to yourself. I know that firsthand. And again, please feel free to reach out if you have questions or want to talk more. Bye. I wanted to end exactly at 10.